Come Here, which is the name of this project, essentially is similar to a project that I did um, as part of a solo exhibition in New Haven. The difference being that in collaborating with Smilo, it's not just myself. I'm collaborating with volunteers and patients and family members. It was originally, a personal project for myself because I've always been interested in gardens and gardening and botany. But when we developed this into a collaborative work for Smilo, we decided that it was also important um, for for the individual volunteers who are participating to put a little bit of themselves into it too. So the end result being that what we have is we have a large group of flowers that I weave into a big net or a series of nets, which kind of serves as a metaphor for everybody's thoughts and hopes and prayers that kind of held together, sort of as a way of saying that everybody is in this together. No one is no one is doing this by themselves. I've never done any sort of art therapy work before because I've prior to this project I've been working. I work in isolation. I mean, all of my previous projects and some projects that I've continued to do that are similar to this project, it's essentially just me, working alone or working in my studio. So because I've had a chance to sort of share this process with other people, I get to see firsthand how other people respond to it. It's just eye-opening for me to see how different people bring different things to it. Something like a flower, it's a very universal symbol. I mean, everybody responds to them. People respond to them in different ways. I do think it is, the fact that there are messages in each of the flowers, which makes it different than my own individual work. Sometimes it does seem a little overwhelming when I think about it, because I think about each of these messages represents different voices. I know that there are messages contained in each of these flowers. I don't know what they are. They're completely anonymous, but I sort of envision all these voices sort of, it's as if each of the flowers are saying something, and I don't necessarily need to know what they're saying. That's enough for me to start thinking about, the concept of these groups of flowers functioning as kind of a chorus of voices. And it's not necessarily chaotic. It's just that every so often, like if I'll look at one flower, I'll think about, I wonder what that flower is actually saying. Even within this big collaborative work, there's even like smaller elements of collaboration where I do, I'll create some of the more elaborate and complicated flowers, but I won't make the stems because I'll just wait for other people to write messages and make the stems, and then I'll put their message and my flower together. So It's almost like flowers that I make are just kind of functioning as like, you know, like little spaceships for these messages. I mean, aside from like the art part of this, I just, you know, I enjoy volunteering. I mean, I like, you know, it is kind of good. You know, it's good for the soul. It's good to get that direct feedback where you, you know, oftentimes you go through life and you try to do good things and you don't necessarily get any feedback from it. And not that I'm like craving, you know, I'm demanding feedback each time I do something. But it is nice when people say, you know, I enjoy this, I enjoy what I'm doing, or thank you. And I'm usually kind of surprised where I think, oh, well, you know, thank you.
The thing that strikes me is how many people this impacts in how many ways. We have people come in who are just drawn by the colors of the flowers themselves, and they come in and they ask about the project and what it is. And so we have volunteers that explain it to them. And so then the people that come in to see the flowers are so moved and impressed and inspired just by knowing that the project exists. Then we have the people that come in and actually make the flowers, and that impacts those people in a certain way. And then we have just anybody who's, once the project is up and completed, anybody that's just going to see it and know what it is going to be inspired. The mood is unbelievably hilarious. Just the camaraderie helps people. But stories come out, personal stories about their loved ones, or and inspiring stories about people who are making the flowers for a loved one who may have already passed away, and they're making the flowers in their memory. And it's kind of like a coffee klatch. It's just a group of people getting around, talking, having a good time, but at the same time doing something that means so much to them, and that's going to have just creating something that's going to be a small part of something huge. So I think it's an important activity for the people that are doing it.
I've been a volunteer here for over a year, and I have watched the project progress. And the first thing that strikes me is the gaiety, the colors, the blooms. It's just a very happy feeling to see these beautiful colors and flowers, but with the understanding that there's a message in each one, the superficial becomes very spiritual for me, because there are patients and there are family members and there are children who visited for Christmas, and the messages they give are messages of hope and messages of faith. Each flower to me becomes a prayer, and just seeing them all together has so many different levels of experience that it's become a wonderful project.
Noah was making the flowers, and people were walking by the table and adding their messages to be put into the stems, and it was amazing to see what kind of response they had when we were explaining the whole project to them, and you were explaining how the messages of hope that you'd gotten from the patients. And we met one patient who had made over 100 flowers during her transfusion time, and then that particular day was the day that we had tragedy here in the state, and a lot of the messages that people wrote had to do with that, best wishes for the people in Sandy Hook. And I think that kind of spoke to just what it really does. It gives people an outlet for an emotional expression that maybe they don't always have. somewhere to write it down like we used to do in the old days in our diary when we felt something really strongly, and just putting it in writing and in paper made a difference. And then to have it, for them to know that it was going to be permanently a stem of one of the flowers that would eventually be an art installation. It was very moving to see the reaction of both the patients and the families and the staff. For most of the patients and people, and again, even the staff that are doing it, it's being part of something bigger than just their own illness or their own feelings that day. I mean, they're adding to the whole humanity of what we do here. We're all hoping for a cure, and we know that there's power in numbers, so there's something about all of those flowers together. And I know when the installation happens and we see them all together, it'll actually be, for me, I think it'll be a tearful experience, because every one of those flowers is representing one person, but as a body, it's representing the whole process that we do here. I think, again, that it's just another way besides science that we can help people through very difficult times in their life, and I think it really has that effect. It's very helpful for them. You can tell just by the looks on their faces when they look at the flowers. You can just tell. It's almost impossible to put into words. You have to see it.
These flowers are all individual, and everybody's problems are individual problems. Everybody's dreams are individual dreams. But when Noel puts them into the net, and it will be strung across Smilo's front entrance, the individuals, and I believe Noel said this, they become one. Their hopes, their dreams, wants, desires, sadness, things they've been through, it all becomes, and I believe I said it, just one cry, one hope, one dream, that cancer can be cured. And I'm just hoping that this maybe has enough people interested and to realize that so many people are affected by this, family members, children, and not that they have cancer, but just a member of their family or a friend has cancer, that a cure has to be found. And the net, the one hope, the one dream is that cancer will be cured. And I hope it's my lifetime. So my grandchild, who was just born last year, will never have to face something like we all have here.